Welcome to lesson 2-4. Today we're going to start talking about operations with decimals. Here are the lesson objectives for 2-4. Make sure you have them written down somewhere before moving on. Here's the introductory problem. Make sure you read this before moving on. So today we're going to start out by writing percents as decimals. So in the last lesson we were able to see how fractions were related to the whole amount of something. Well, decimals also represent a part of a whole just like fractions. Percent is a third way to represent the part of a whole. Therefore, you can convert a decimal to a percent and then back again. A decimal organizes numbers according to place value. When you write a decimal as a percent, you will also keep track of the place value. A percent is a part of a whole out of 100. So the first thing we're going to talk about is turning a percent into a decimal. And the way to do that is we take the decimal point and we move it to the left 2 spots. So our first example is write 25% as a decimal. Now, you don't see a decimal point anywhere, but it's at the end of the 25. So it's right there. So whenever we see a number like this as a percent, we can always add that decimal afterwards. Okay, and so we're going to move it to the left 2 spots so that it's right here. Our decimal is 0.25. So 9%. Again, we'll put the decimal point after the 9. So now we're going to move it to the left 2 spots again, 1, 2. Anytime we don't have a number, we can fill it in with a 0. So 9% is the same as 0.09. Now we can see a decimal, so we don't have to add one in. So 35.5%. I take the decimal point and I move it 2 to the left, and now it's right here. So it's 0.355, right there. Notice how on none of these examples the percent sign is there anymore. Okay, we get rid of the percent sign when we turn it into a decimal. Take a minute and pause the video, turn all 3 of these percents into decimals, then hit play and see how you did. Yeah, the first one, the decimal started out after the 5, so we move it to the left 2 and it becomes 0.35. Second one, decimal starts after the 2. We move it to the left 2 spots, and since we moved to a spot where there wasn't a number, we fill in with a 0, so it's 0.02. The last one, the decimal starts after the 8, so we move it to the left, 2 to the left, and it comes 0.187. So to write decimals as percent, we do the opposite of what we just did to write a percent as a decimal. So instead of moving to the left 2 spots, we're going to move it to the right, and we're going to still fill in with zeros as placeholders as necessary, and then we write the percent symbol afterwards to turn it into a percent. So if we're going to write 0.78 as a percent, so we've got 0.78, we move the decimal to the right 2 now, to here, and since this 0 is in front, we can get rid of that 0, and it turns into 78%. Writing 0.6 as a percent, 0.6. Again, we take that decimal point and we move it to the right 2 spots. You'll notice that there wasn't a number in this second one, so I fill it in with a 0. Since the first number was a 0, we can get rid of that, and it turns into 60%. 0.345, so 0.345. Again, only moving it 2 spots over. And then again, since the 0 is to start out with, we can get rid of that, and it turns into 34.5%. So now instead of having a 0 in front of the decimal, we have a 3. So 3.5. We still move the decimal point over 2 spots. We still fill in a 0, but now we don't cross out the 3 because we only cross out it if it's a 0. So that turns this into 350%. Go ahead and pause the video and turn these 3 decimals into percents and then hit play and see how you did. Okay, the first one should go to 45%. Second one, we have to fill in a 0 for that second spot, and it turns into 250%. And the third one, we should have gotten 87.5%. So if we have a percent that's less than 1, so it's got a decimal, or if it's greater than 100, we still do it the same way that we did when it was greater than 1 but less than 100. So we still move the decimal point the same amount, and we do everything the exact same. So if we have 0.5%, okay, so it's a percent, so 0.5%, we still move it to the left 2 spots, fill in a 0 as needed, and get rid of the percent. So it turns into 0.005 as a decimal. 350%, there's no decimal, so I add it after the last number. I still move it to the left 2 spots, right there. Get rid of the percent, and it turns into 3.50. The 0 is optional at the end. You could have it as just 3.5. Go ahead and pause the video and write these 3% as decimals, and then hit play and see how you did. For the first one, moving it to the left and filling in that 0, you should got 0.0025. Second one, 0.45. Third one, 6.75. We can do the same thing with word problems. A company which produces light bulbs is very proud of the fact that they only have 0.02% of each shipment is defective. We can write that as a decimal the same way. Take this decimal, move it left 2 spots, fill in any zeros, and get rid of the percent sign. So as a decimal, it would be 0.0002. Go ahead and pause the video, read this word problem, and then write the percent as a decimal, and then hit play and see how you did. Okay, so we're taking the percent 145 and turning that into a decimal. Move the decimal to the left 2 spots, get rid of the percent, leaving us with 1.45 as a decimal.